Thank you very much for being an audience right here and for participating in this event. It really is a one of a kind. I've been meaning to hear Professor Porter for a while, and I heard some part of the session that just ended, and of course Piyush Goyal, who made a big pitch there. I know you've been hearing a lot of speakers here, people from government and a whole host of speakers lined up through the day as well. But I'm going to tell you what I feel as a journalist. I see things from within due to the access that we have to people who make policies, who decide things of the world that we live in, and you yet have an objective perspective because you step out of your access and you see things as they are. And which is why I think sometimes you are the objective insider because you have access and then you have the liberties to step out. So I just thought we should speak about competitiveness at large, and competitiveness not just for my channel or for the network, but even from a country's point of view, India at large and how competitive we are. And you know, being a business journalist, you have access to reports that come in from brokerages all across the world, from institutions like the IMF or the World Bank, and you keep hearing that India is this shining spot, India is this sweet spot, India is perhaps the only hope in an otherwise gloomy world. It's very good to hear that, but then you sometimes step back and say, is this relative to the rest of the world? Is this relative to what the entire world is seeing? And sometimes the answer to that question is yes. I mean, we're shining relative to the rest of the world, which isn't, which is rather dark. And so then you turn back and say, what are we doing to increase competitiveness? And then, you know, without singing paeans of this government, I think a lot is being done. Many steps being taken at the last mile level, at the grassroots level, and, with things at large. One of the changes that I think increasing competitiveness, the context is that there is a lot of political capital and political will to bring about reforms, to increase competitiveness, to do things that will increase competitiveness, which will perhaps not always be easy to do and will not always be palatable politically to do. And which is why I keep going back to saying the political capital is very important and the government does have it. But I think that also tries to, I mean, we also tend to keep talking about the government and the steps that New Delhi is taking and the various states are doing. And we somewhere forget in the bargain that a huge stakeholder in this entire competitive pie is also Indian industry. And I think it's that moment of reckoning where the industry also has to step back and see what are we doing to increase competitiveness. I mean, what are we doing to increase efficiency, to leverage technology to increase competitiveness? And that is where the debate does come from. Because it's not just going to be government that increases India's competitive edge or puts us on the global roadmap, but it is also the industry at large. I mean, you know, it is no hidden secret, it is no rocket science to realize how things were in the past is not how they can be today or they can be in the future. You know, the jobs of yesterday or the jobs of today are not going to be the jobs of tomorrow. Automation, artificial intelligence, robotics, this is changing the world that we live in. So what was relevant, what was important yesterday or even today is not going to be so relevant in the world tomorrow. I think the IT industry has learned it the hard way, and we've got some stakeholders from there. You know, we can no longer just keep leveraging the cost arbitrage model. That model is broken of the world that we live in. You've got to be niche, you've got to move up the value chain. So from an Indian industry point of view, a lot needs to happen. I just think I'm going to step back and talk about various steps that the government is taking. So whether it's the Niti Aayog on one hand, or whether it's ministers like Mr. Goyal, you're going to hear Amitabh Kant in the day-to-day, I think Suresh Prabhu just spoke. These are doers. I mean, these people understand what it will take, not just because they are in policy making and in the thick of it, but they also understand how businesses work. What is it that businesses and industries will need to increase competitive advantage? And so I think we're in safe hands there. But you know, we can keep talking about competitive advantage, we can keep talking about the government, we can keep talking about the industry. The last mile is always the states. Where is the biggest hurdle? Which is the last mile? You know, I know we can keep talking about FDI coming in, but the FDI goes into a particular geography, and that is the state. That's the last mile, really. And it's a good thing that we're talking about competitive federalism. I mean, gone are the days when, you know, states took it for granted that money will flow into them. Gone are the days when we could, label states as Bimaru states and forget about them. It's very heartening to see a Bihar or even a UP, for that matter, make a pitch for global investment, make a pitch for wooing FDI, which is very good. I think competitive federalism is a good thing. It adds to India's competitive advantage. And we're not doing this just because it's the right thing to do. We're also perhaps doing this because we are living in a world which is increasingly insular, whether it's the United Kingdom, the Brexit that we're going to eventually see, or whether it's the United States or Australia or New Zealand, we are seeing a world that is increasingly looking inward, that is increasingly looking insular. And in that world, you've just got to be competitive. You've got to harness your competitive advantage. I, of course, will take a quick minute to talk about the Times network here. We've got the most influential, powerful brands across the English category, whether it's entertainment, news, business news. And so in that sense, it's our own competitive advantage that we leverage. What about ET now? Unlike our competition, we're not a channel that's obsessed with just stock markets. You know, what stock moved how much is not that's keeping us awake at night. I think we look at the investor community, we look at long-term capital building, we look at the macro picture, we also look at the micros that add up to the macro. So in some sense, and you know, Professor Porter keeps speaking about the niche that we can leverage, and I think that's our niche. We're just not obsessed with stock markets, but we do a lot other than that. I know it's a day-long deliberation. You've heard some of the finest voices in the morning, and you will continue to hear from the government and industry over the course of the entire day. So happy deliberations. It's been a pleasure being here. We take great pride in partnering with the Institute for Competitiveness for this event, because I think to hear people in a freewheeling chat talk about competitive edge, to talk about competitive advantage that India can leverage is indeed a pleasure. And I'm sure all of us will go back a little wiser today. Thank you very much.